Well, Nintendo has released their most recent financial information, and it's looking like this may be one of the best years since the release of the Switch. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We'll start here with looking at their consolidated sales numbers, and you can see when you compare the first half of this fiscal year with the first half of last fiscal year, they're pretty much up across the board. Net sales are up 21.2%. And when you take a look at how this breaks down, you can see mobile IP related income is up 133%. And I believe this is where the Super Mario Bros. Movie falls in, because the note says this includes income from visual content, smart device content, and royalties. And I thought the little graph they have here in the bottom right was interesting. You can see in yellow that 43.7% of their sales is in the Americas, where sales in Japan only make up 21.7%. Now, Nintendo credits part of their sales success in the fact that the yen is not doing very well. You can see it says on the left, effect of changes in foreign exchange rates on net sales is a plus 36.8 billion yen. When you take that and look at the note that it says 78.3% of their sales are outside of Japan, that makes sense as to why they're doing so well. And then when you flip over to this graph for gross profit, you can see that gross profit is up 20.5%, and most of the margins are kind of small until you get to the bottom there, and you can see how the yen is stacking up against the dollar and the euro. When you compare the first half of the previous fiscal year with this fiscal year's first half, the yen is plus 7.03 against the dollar and plus 14.74 against the euro. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but basically think about the fact it's taking more yen in order to equal a dollar or a euro. And it is worth noting that the proportion of their digital sales went down just 0.8%. So maybe Nintendo isn't totally in on this all digital future if they're looking at the way the numbers are going here. And of course, we're also coming off of the pandemic years where a lot more people bought their games digitally, and now they can go out to stores and buy them physically. And they have a whole lot more graphs and charts here, and I'm going to skip over these. I think we get a pretty good idea of their financial information from these first two. But I do have a link to the PDF with all this information if you want to check it out, and that's in the description below. But I did want to go over one more here, and that's the consolidated financial forecast. And you can see Nintendo modified their forecasted sales and actually increased what they thought they would take in revenue. Now, this would be for the forecasted fiscal year that ends in March of 2024. And they're comparing this to what they had originally published back in May of 2023. And you can see at the bottom of the chart here where Nintendo believes the increase in this forecast comes from. One is the exchange rate with the yen, which we've already gone over, and also in software sales by 2.8%. Now, they don't have an increase in what they projected in hardware sales, so don't think that the increase in this projected sales is because Nintendo's going to release some new hardware, at least not this fiscal year, which kind of lines up with some of the rumblings that we've been hearing that Nintendo's next hardware may come sometime next summer. But I would not at all be surprised if we get some type of announcement about that new system right toward the end of March, right before the end of the fiscal year, so as not to disrupt Nintendo Switch sales. And they would have some nice bullet points when they release their financial information for the entire year and what their forecast for the upcoming year will be. Now we get to look at some of the sales numbers for hardware and software. I'm going to focus on that bottom left quarterly unit sales trend. And this shows the last 5 quarters in sales. And you can see the second column there is obviously the Christmas time of last year. And then you see an expected drop off on that third column. But then that fourth column, the fiscal year 24 Q1, you can see how there was a bump there, and that was when we had Tears of the Kingdom release as well as the Mario Bros. Movie. So of course Tears of the Kingdom sold really well, and then that tie into the Mario movie boosted the sales of a lot of the Mario titled games. But looking at the first half of this fiscal year, Nintendo had 16 games that were million sellers. And this includes titles from other software publishers, and we'll look at Nintendo's here in just a minute. And taking a look at digital sales, you can see revenue is up 15.8%, but the proportion of their sales is actually down 0.8%. And again, because the yen's not doing so well, they made more money, but their proportion of digital sales actually went down just because people aren't buying as many digital games. And I do have to wonder how that percentage will be over this current fiscal quarter, because Nintendo has all these bundles with the Switch and some type of game that's going to count as a digital sale because it's not an actual physical cart. So I would not be surprised to see their percentage of digital sales go up when we get Q3 numbers. And Nintendo also pointed out that Tears of the Kingdom sold really well physically, so that probably had a lot of impact on digital sale percentage. And now let's take a look at those million seller Nintendo first party titles, and these are the ones that sold 1 million from April until September of this year, so for the first half of the fiscal year. And these numbers look weird because they're in 10,000s, so if you've got a comma there, just think about move the comma one space to the right, and that's how many million you would have. And we'll just go down the list here, and of course Tears of the Kingdom is at the top with 19.5 million units sold, and of course it released during the first half of the fiscal year here, so that's why we're seeing all those numbers on the live to date. And of course the next closest, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm not surprised. And then we have Pikmin 4, which also released during this period. And then we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And then Breath of the Wild selling 1.3 million units. It got a bit of a boost there with Tears of the Kingdom coming out. And then new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Mario Party Superstars, Mario Odyssey. Again, we're seeing these Mario titles do well on the backs of that movie that came out. And then next we have Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and then Animal Crossing New Horizons, Nintendo Switch Sports, and finally Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. So looking back through the list, Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4 were the only two that were actually released during the first half of this fiscal year, so you've got a lot of evergreen titles here. But hey, I wonder what happened to Everybody 1-2 Switch. That one obviously hasn't sold 1 million units yet. And then we have a nice list of games that are coming out starting in this fiscal quarter and beyond, so some of these are already out. We have Detective Pikachu Returns, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which I'm hearing is selling really great. And then we have WarioWare Move It, Super Mario RPG, Another Code Recollection, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Princess Peach Showtime. And then 3 games that don't have concrete dates yet. We have Luigi's Mansion 2 HD coming summer 2024, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door in 2024, and of course always looming at the bottom here, Metroid Prime 4, again to be announced. So there's definitely some big titles still upcoming for the Switch just in this year, and then the start of next calendar year, or be Q4 for Nintendo financially. So a pretty good financial report for the first half of this fiscal year for Nintendo, so much so that they actually say it's, quote, the largest since the launch of the Nintendo Switch. Now honestly, a lot of that is on the backs of the weak yen right now, but let me know your thoughts. Have you thought that this has been a pretty good year for the Switch as far as the games that have been released? Or does it feel like maybe the system has extended its stay a bit too long? Let me know your comments down below. And if you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so. It really does help the channel out quite a bit. I want to thank you for watching, and be good.